Welcome to this program observing Black History Month here at the Village at Orchard Ridge. Many thanks to the Creative Arts Team Project Group that planned this program: Joyce Hunley, Heather Humphreys, Pat Preston, Dick Graham, Harold Bright, Truman Dalton, and Anna Lehman, video technician and editing for Anna. Thanks to Joyce and Heather for the excellent mailroom bulletin board. We will hear the words of 12 highly significant African American figures from the last 200 years, and we will experience music. We begin with two well-known spirituals.
Let my people Sojourner Truth was born Isabella Baumfree about 1797. She was born into slavery in New York, but escaped to freedom at age 29. She devoted her life to the abolitionist cause and helped to recruit black troops for the Union Army. Although Truth began her career as an abolitionist, the reform causes she sponsored were broad and varied, including prison reform, property rights, and universal suffrage. Excerpts from her "Ain't I a Woman?" speech to the Women's Rights Convention in Ohio on June 21st, 1851 follow. I want to say a few words about this matter. I am a woman's rights. I have as much right as any man and can do as much work as any man. I have plowed and reaped and husked and chopped and mowed, and can any man do more than that? I have heard much about the sexes being equal. I can carry as much as any man and can eat as much too, if I can get it. I am as strong as any man that is now. As for intellect, all I can say is, if a woman have a pint and a man a quart, why can't she have her little pint full? You need not be afraid to give us our rights, for fear we will take too much, for we can't take more than our pint'll hold. The poor men seems to be all in confusion and don't know what to do. Why, children, if you have women's rights, give it to her, and you will feel better. You will have your own rights, and they won't be so much trouble. I can't read, but I can hear. I have heard the Bible, and I have learned that Eve caused man to sin. Well, if a woman upset the world, do give her a chance to set it right side up again.
Abolitionist leader Frederick Douglass was born into slavery in Maryland. He became one of the most famous intellectuals of his time. Douglass was an American social reformer, abolitionist, orator, writer, and statesman who advised presidents and lectured to thousands on a range of causes, including women's rights. Following are excerpts from a speech first delivered in 1859. I do not think much of the good luck theory of self-made men. It is worth but little attention and has no practical value. Opportunity is important, but exertion is indispensable. The man who will get up will be helped up, and the man who will not get up will be allowed to stay down. And now from Frederick Douglass's Blessings of Liberty and Education speech in 1894. Education means emancipation. It means light and liberty. It means the uplifting of the soul of man into the glorious light of truth, the light by which men can only be made free. And from Frederick Douglass's Life and Times of Frederick Douglass. No man can be truly free whose liberty is dependent upon the thought, feeling, and action of others, and who has himself no means in his own hands for guarding, protecting, defending, and maintaining that liberty. Abolition of slavery has been the deepest desire and the greatest labor of my life. Civil war was not a mere strife for territory and domination, but a contest of civilization against barbarism. If the Negro knows enough to fight for his country, he knows enough to vote. If he knows enough to pay taxes for the support of the government, he knows enough to vote. If he knows as much when sober as an Irishman knows when drunk, he knows enough to vote.
Born into slavery in Maryland, Harriet Tubman escaped to freedom in the North in 1849 to become the most famous conductor on the Underground Railroad, and is credited with conducting upward of 300 fugitive slaves to Canada. A leading abolitionist before the American Civil War, Tubman also helped the Union Army during the war, working as a spy among other roles. Among her statements to others are the following: I had reasoned this out in my mind. There was one of two things I had a right to, liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other, for no man should take me alive. I should fight for my liberty as long as my strength lasted, and when the time came for me to go, the Lord would let them take me. Slavery is the next thing to hell. God's time, emancipation, is always near. He set the North Star in the heavens. He gave me the strength in my limbs. He meant I should be free.
Booker T. Washington was an American educator, author, orator, advisor to presidents, and the dominant leader of the African American community from 1890 to 1915. In 1881, he founded what is now Tuskegee University. He advocated for black progress through education and entrepreneurship, rather than trying to directly challenge segregation and the disenfranchisement of black voters in the South. One of 14 books he wrote, his 1901 autobiography, Up From Slavery, was a bestseller and remained the most popular African American autobiography until that of Malcolm X. Washington was the first African American to be depicted on a U.S. postage stamp and coin. The following are quotes from his various writings. I will permit no man to narrow and degrade my soul by making me hate him. You can't hold a man down without staying down with him. Nothing ever comes to one that is worth having except as a result of hard work. I have learned that success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles which he has had to overcome while trying to succeed. If you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else. Character, not circumstances, makes the man.
William Edward Burghardt Dubois, usually referred to as W.E.B. Du Bois, was an American sociologist, socialist, historian, civil rights activist, Pan-Africanist, author, writer, and editor. Born in Great Barrington, Massachusetts on February 23, 1868, Du Bois grew up in a relatively tolerant and integrated community. Relying on money donated by neighbors, Du Bois attended Fisk University, a historically black college in Nashville, Tennessee. where he learned about the intolerance of the South. After completing graduate work at the University of Berlin and Harvard, where he was the first African American to earn a doctorate, he became professor of history, sociology, and economics at Atlanta University. Dubois was one of the founders of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, in 1909. Here are two of his quotes, the first from his credo. He said, "I believe that all men, black and brown and white, are brothers, varying through time and opportunity, in form and gift and feature, but differing in no essential particular, and alike in soul and the possibility of infinite development." And from his The Gift of Black Folk in 1924, he wrote, "If there is anyone in this land who thoroughly believes that the meek will inherit the earth, they have not often let their presence be known."
Langston Hughes was a poet, novelist, playwright, and social activist. He was one of the most important writers and thinkers of the Harlem Renaissance, a movement in the 1920s that celebrated black culture. He became known worldwide as the Poet Laureate of Harlem. A reading from Will J. V Day be Me Day Too. Over there, World War II. Dear fellow Americans, I write this letter hoping times will be better when this war is through. I'm a tan-skinned Yank driving a tank. I ask, will V-Day be Me Day too? When I take off my uniform, will I be safe from harm? Or will you do me as the Germans did the Jews? When I've helped this world to save, shall I still be color slave? Or will victory change your antiquated views? You can't say I didn't fight to smash the fascist might. You can't say I wasn't with you in each battle as a soldier and a friend. When this war comes to an end, will you herd me into a Jim Crow car like cattle? Or will you stand up like a man at home and take your stand for democracy? That's all I ask of you. When we lay the guns away to celebrate our Victory Day, will V-Day be Me Day too? That's what I want to know. Sincerely, G.I. Joe. A reading from I Too. I too sing America. I am the darker brother they send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody'll dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America.
Ella Fitzgerald was born in Newport News, Virginia on April 25, 1917. Dubbed the First Lady of Song, Ella was the most popular female jazz singer in the United States for more than half a century. In her lifetime, she won 13 Grammy Awards and sold over 40 million albums. Her voice was flexible, wide-ranging, accurate, and ageless. She could sing sultry ballads, sweet jazz, and imitate every instrument in the orchestra. She worked with all the jazz greats from Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and Nat King Cole to Frank Sinatra, Dizzy Gillespie, and Benny Goodman. She performed at top venues all over the world and packed them to the hilt. Her audiences were as diverse as her vocal range. By the 1990s, Ella had recorded over 200 albums, and in 1991 she gave her first concert at Carnegie Hall. It was the 26th time she gave her final concert at Carnegie Hall. It was the 26th time she had performed there. On June 15, 1996, at age 79, Ella Fitzgerald died in her Beverly Hills home. Hours later, signs of remembrance began to appear all over the world. A wreath of white flowers stood next to her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Here are some of her thoughts. Just don't give up trying to do what you really want to do. Where there's love and inspiration, I don't think you can go wrong. The only thing better than singing is more singing. It isn't where you came from, it's where you're going that counts. Music is the universal language. It brings people closer together. I stole everything I ever heard, but mostly I stole from the horns. Sometimes people will say something you don't like and you get angry a bit, but you just smile. You let it go by, even if you really would like to choke them. By smiling, I think I've made more friends than if I were the other way. I'm very shy, and I shy away from people. But the moment I hit the stage, it's a different feeling. I get nerve from somewhere. Maybe it's because it's something I love to do. It's not easy for me to get up in front of a crowd of people. It used to bother me a lot. But now I've got it figured out that God gave me this talent to use. So I just stand there and sing. When I'm on stage, I feel at home. You take romance, I'll take Jell-O. A lot of singers think all they have to do is exercise their tonsils to get ahead. They refuse to look for new ideas and new outlets, so they fall by the wayside. I'm going to try to find out new ideas before the others do.
Maya Angelou was an American author, actress, screenwriter, dancer, poet, and civil rights activist. She is best known for her 1969 memoir, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, which made literary history as the first nonfiction bestseller by an African American woman. Angelou received several honors throughout her career, and she was invited to recite one of her poems at President Clinton's 1993 inaugural ceremony. One of her best-known poems, also titled I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, explores the theme freedom, with the caged bird representative of both herself and those who have experienced the oppression of racism and sexism. The caged bird. The free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wings in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his voice to sing. The caged bird sings with fearful trill of the things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hills, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare dream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., born in 1929 and named after the Protestant Reformation leader Martin Luther, was a Southern Baptist minister who was the leading spokesperson and activist of the civil rights movement from 1955 until his assassination in 1968 in Memphis, while preparing for the Poor People's Campaign. Awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964 for combating racial inequality in the United States through acts of nonviolence and civil disobedience, modeled after those of Mahatma Gandhi in colonial India, he was a major organizer of the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where he delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. He is celebrated by his memorial on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., by hundreds of renamed streets in the United States, and on Martin Luther King Day, the third Monday of January each year. These then are his words and the places where he gave them to us. It may well be that we will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the vitriolic words and the violent actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence and indifference of the good people who sit around and say, "Wait on time." Illinois Wesleyan University, 1966. We shall overcome, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Grosse Pointe, Michigan, 1968. We shall overcome. I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its motto. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. Address to the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, August 28, 1963. And finally, and so, however dark it is, however deep the angry feelings are, and the violent explosions are, I can still sing, "We Shall Overcome." Washington National Cathedral, 1968.
Band leader, composer, and musician, Wynton Marsalis is counted among the top trumpeters of all time. He is the only artist to win both the classical and jazz Grammy Awards in the same year, and is the first jazz artist to be awarded the Pulitzer Prize in Music for his compositions. He has been awarded 38 honorary PhDs for music from the top universities in America, and is co-founder and music director of Jazz at Lincoln Center. As long as there is democracy, there will be people wanting to play jazz, because nothing else will ever so perfectly capture the democratic process in sound. Jazz means working things out musically with other people. You have to listen to other musicians and play with them, even if you don't agree with what they're playing. It teaches you the very opposite of racism and anti-Semitism. It teaches you that the world is big enough to accommodate us all.
Michelle Obama served as First Lady of the United States from 2009 to 2017. A graduate of Princeton University and Harvard Law School, she started her career as an attorney at a Chicago law firm, and there she met her future husband, Barack Obama. She later worked in the Chicago Mayor's Office, the University of Chicago, the University of Chicago's Medical Center. She also founded the Chicago chapter of Public Allies, an organization that prepares young people for careers in public service. As First Lady, she created the Let's Move program to reduce childhood obesity and encouraged healthy eating for all ages. The Obamas have two daughters, Malia and Sasha, and currently live in Washington, D.C. From the preface of her book, Becoming, she writes, "There's a lot I still don't know about America, about life, about what the future might bring, but I do know myself. My father, Fraser, taught me to work hard, laugh often, and keep my word. My mother, Marion, showed me how to think for myself and to use my voice. Together in our cramped apartment on the south side of Chicago, they helped me see the value in our story, in my story, in the larger story of our country, even when it's not pretty or perfect, even when it's more real than you want it to be. Your story is what you have, what you always will have. Success isn't about how much money you make, it's about the difference you make in people's lives."
Barack Obama was the 44th President of the United States and the first African American president. In 2009, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his extraordinary efforts to strengthen international diplomacy and cooperation among people. These words are from the first inaugural address delivered on January 20th, 2009. Each time we gather to inaugurate a president, we bear witness to the enduring strength of our Constitution. We affirm the promise of our democracy. We recall that what binds this nation together is not the colors of our skin or the tenets of our faith or the origins of our name. What makes us exceptional, what makes us American, is our allegiance to an idea articulated in the Declaration made more than 2 centuries ago. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
James Weldon Johnson tells the story of Lift Every Voice and Sing. A group of young men in Jacksonville, Florida, arranged to celebrate Lincoln's birthday in 1900. My brother and I decided to write a song to be sung at the exercises. I wrote the words, and he wrote the music. Our New York publisher made mimeographed copies for us, and the song was taught to and sung by a chorus of 500 colored school children. Shortly afterwards, my brother and I moved from Jacksonville to New York, and the song passed out of our minds. But the school children of Jacksonville kept singing it. They went off to other schools and sang it. They became teachers and taught it to other children. Within 20 years, it was being sung over the South and in some other parts of the country. Today, the song, popularly known as the Negro National Anthem, is quite generally used. The lines of this song repay me in an elation almost of exquisite anguish whenever I hear them sung by Negro children.